Ooh. Well, hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel. I'm quite close to home tonight, a little bit deeper into the fens in an area called the Ouse Washes. This is a large floodwater storage area, a reservoir. It's essentially a large piece of pasture land between two man-made straight rivers that take water out from the River Great Ouse in Cambridgeshire all the way out to the Wash as quickly as it can, really. This area is very prone to flooding. It's only a tiny amount above sea level. Many parts are below sea level. So flood management is a very, very big thing here in the fens since the Dutch came over in the 17th century and helped us to drain everything. So ordinarily the area I'm in here, particularly in the winter and in the spring, is almost completely inaccessible. It's filled with maybe sort of 4 or 5 feet of water, sometimes a bit more. It's crisscrossed with drainage channels and it's pretty perilous to get to when it's in flood. But we've had probably the driest spring here in about 70 years. So the ground is really rather dry. The river levels are very well managed. And this area, this Ouse Washes area is, well, it's completely dry, or as dry as anything ever gets really in the fens. That said, it was still quite a challenge getting over here tonight. I have scouted out this area before, quite a few years ago actually. I knew some of the bridges that I needed to cross over to get here were a little on the sketchy side, but I think the floods maybe at the beginning of last year and possibly even the year before have really taken their toll, and both bridges were in a pretty poor state of repair, but the second one was just completely skeletal. So that was quite interesting getting over that. I'm not especially looking forward to heading back over that later on tonight when it's dark, but I'll take it easy. I know the lay of the land over there now, so I'm sure it will be okay. In my mind here, I was coming to shoot something that was a bit like that glorious wooden hunter's hut that I shot with Jeroen over in the Eifel region of Germany earlier this year. But sometimes in our mind's eye we build stuff up to maybe be a little bit bigger and a little bit better than it is in real life. Let me show you what I mean. Come and look at this. So there it is. Bit of a disappointment compared to the hut in the Eifel region, which to be honest could have been a small Airbnb. It was so luxurious inside. This is, well, it's some rusty scaffolding with some planks and some chicken wire and a ladder leaning against it. I mean, it's not perhaps the most aesthetically pleasing foreground I've ever shot, but do you know what? If if Richard Tatty can make a barbed wire fence look artistic under the stars, then I think I'm up for the challenge of trying something with this. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Let's get on with it. Someone's got a disposable coffee cup they've left in here. We'll take that home with us. Oh. I didn't explain earlier what these are, and that's really because I'm not entirely sure. There's another one just down there which is slightly camouflaged. And so what I think these are they're unlikely to be bird watching hides, although the bird life in this area is pretty sensational because it's sort of permanent wetland really. But the fact that the ones over there are camouflaged, and there's quite a few of them dotted around here, make me suspect they're used for shooting possibly. Don't know that for sure. If you know, do let me know in the comments. We'll try and make something of them. Well, that foreground's starting to look quite nice. I'm shooting with the Astro modified Canon 6D camera and the Sigma Art 24mm f1.4 lens. Currently I've got that stopped down to f2 and I'm shooting at 13 seconds and ISO 6400, and there is enough light in the sky, it's still blue hour, just about anyway, for actually there to be quite a lot of detail here in the shadows and in the foreground. So I don't think I need to light paint this image. The bird hide is standing proud of the horizon because I'm quite low down here, and I think that's giving it the definition it needs. I don't think it needs light painting. What I might do is shut the aperture down to f4 just to get it a little bit sharper. This lens is fine at f2, but at f4 it'll be even better. Increase the exposure and hopefully that will sort my foregrounds out. And then it'll be time to set up the tracker for the sky images. And as you might be able to see behind me there, I'm starting to get a little bit of cloud in exactly the wrong part of the sky. We were always on the edge of the cloud bank tonight. It was always a risk, always a possibility. Hopefully this will clear away. If it doesn't, that's going to scupper my chances of doing my sky shot. Now, I've been using the Move Shoot Move Nomad tracker for, well, it's been getting on for a year now, and it has absolutely transformed my astrophotography. Tracked sky images just contain so much more detail, so much more pop than static stacked shots or single shots, and that's because you can shut the lens down to a slightly narrower aperture and just get a lot more sharpness. You know, when you're doing astrophotography, you're pushing the lens to its absolute limit. Now, if you can shut the aperture down a bit, it just is a bit more forgiving on the lens, but also you're significantly reducing the signal to noise ratio by taking very long exposure tracked shots at a lower ISO. So you just get a lot less noise in the image. And those two things combined, the sharpness and the higher signal to noise, can be absolutely transformational to your Milky Way images. Now, up until about a year ago, I used to use the Skywatcher Star Adventurer, but the drawback of it was just so heavy and so bulky. By the time you marry it with the wedge that it comes with, I mean, it's a huge thing. It just doesn't fit very easily inside a camera bag. And whilst it's very accurate at tracking, it's just a bit of a faff to take with you. And I used to find I would leave it out of my camera bag because I had to put it in the top. It wouldn't fit in the main compartment, and that's a lot of weight to be kind of moving around up by my head, and it was just uncomfortable to carry around. So I just used to not really bother with it. Now, a short while ago, Move Shoot Move got in touch and asked if I would do a review of the tracker in exchange for them sending me one. I explained to them, actually I've already got one. I've been working with it for over a year, and I absolutely love it. I'll put the full details of the deal that I got with Move Shoot Move in the description to this video. So I said I really like it. Let's just talk through the main things that I find attractive about it. Okay, so number one, it's a really compact package. I mean, this thing just slides really easily into a corner of your camera bag. I've actually got attached to it permanently the Move Shoot Move Alan Wallace Z plate. You can use a V plate as well to get a level platform once it's assembled, but even with that Z plate on it, it just sits so easily in my camera bag. It's always there. It doesn't take up any room. I'm not losing lens space in any particular way, and it only weighs about half a kilo, a bit more of course with the Z plate on it, but really easy to carry around with me. And I use it with the equatorial wedge that it can be part of the packages that you buy it from. So it's a Move Shoot Move wedge, probably about a quarter of the size and less than that in weight compared to the Skywatcher Star Adventure equivalent. Really compact little things, like a small bullhead almost. And I find that it's precise enough. When I'm trying to get polar alignment, I find that I can shoot with, you know, 135mm lens, anything up to 60 seconds, maybe 30 seconds in a wind or near the celestial equator. And if I'm shooting at 24mm or 50mm or wide open at 14mm, this thing will easily do 3, 4 or 5 minute exposures. It's that good. Polar alignment is an absolute doddle with the laser device. I mean, that's been transformational for me. I used to, with the Skywatcher, have the polar scope and I'll be constantly getting on my knees, looking up. With the laser aligner, it takes seconds. Now, I know you can't use a laser in all countries. There are some who have some quite strict regulations around it, but here in the UK, providing you're away from flight paths, it's the obvious solution to use. So if you're into wide field astrophotography and nightscapes as I am, and shooting anything up really to sort of 85mm, sometimes 135mm, then honestly the Nomad is about as good as you can do in the market for simplicity and focused effectiveness. But I said earlier, there's a few things that I don't think are quite as good as they could be with the Nomad. And the first actually has nothing to do with the unit itself, but how the unit is packaged. Now, this might be a UK specific thing, but if you want, as I did, the equatorial wedge, the main Nomad unit, and the laser polar aligner, well, to get all of that package, you also have to buy a head torch. Now, it's actually this head torch. There's nothing wrong with it, it's a great head torch, but I had a head torch for astrophotography. I didn't need to have one, and I just feel it's a weird packaging decision. I think actually now, if you want to have the equatorial wedge, you need to get both the polar scope and the laser aligner. So there's some weird stuff going on there. I think it would just be better if you could buy the components separately, or perhaps there's just a bit more thought that goes into the packages. Ultimately, I got what I needed, I got what I wanted, and I got a head torch, which actually is a perfectly good head torch that I use all the time, but I didn't really need one. The second issue I have is the very, very small printing that you get on the on-off switch for north and south. It's absolutely tiny. Now, I confess I don't have the world's best eyesight, at least not yet, still praying for that to happen, but with all the way in the world, I'm completely unable, with my glasses on or off, to see what's north and what's south. So I've solved that pretty easily by just putting a little glow-in-the-dark sticker on there that says N for north. Pretty easy solution, a pretty ugly solution, not really one I think I ought to have done, and I just feel like that could have been a little bit larger, maybe even some glow-in-the-dark paint on there right out of the factory, so you can see very easily which is north and which is south. My final minor gripe is with the equatorial wedge. My process when I'm setting this up is first of all to level the tripod. I then attach the wedge, and you can use these little azimuth controls here to slightly move the direction the wedge is facing, but there's not an awful lot of play in those, and if you just get it slightly wrong about how you're aligning with the pole star, then you kind of have to move the whole tripod, which means you have to level the tripod again, and that's just a bit frustrating. You know, time is of the essence sometimes when you're out shooting the night sky, particularly if you're fighting clouds, and having to sort of, you know, constantly move and re-level the tripod is just a bit of a faff. Now, in fairness to Move Shoot Move, when I explained this problem to them, they sent me the rotating head that they sell. It's about, I think they sell it for about £20, something like that, which I've just attached to the bottom here, and now I can rotate that whole assembly once I have leveled the tripod off. So I think that works quite well. Probably if I was designing it from scratch, maybe I would put a leveling rotating head on here, because then you can do both the tripod leveling and the polar alignment all from the same device without having to move the tripod at all. So possibly that would be the best solution. Maybe I'll invest in one of those at some point too. But honestly, on balance, they are all very first world problems. I see myself using this unit for years and years to come. It's absolutely perfect for the sort of wide field nightscape photography that I do. If you've not picked up a Nomad yourself yet and you're interested in doing so, then you can save 5% by using the offer code PAUL at the checkout on the Move Shoot Move website. Alternatively, if you have benefited from the reviews of some of the other people who have done much more detail than I have on this, and I'm thinking here about Richard from Nightscape Images and Jeroen from Starscaper, then I'm going to put their offer codes on the screen now as well. And if you benefited from their review, please do use their offer codes and show them some support as well. But well done, Move Shoot Move. I think you've absolutely nailed it. And thankfully, while I've been talking, the sky has cleared, so it's now time to do my sky images. sky exposures are now running. I'm doing 60-second exposures, which is quite a short exposure for me, and I'm also f2.8, which is a relatively narrow aperture for me when I'm doing my sky shots. I'm ISO 800, and that's because I have a pretty aggressive light dome down there in the southeast, exactly where the core is rising. So thankfully the composition is such that I'm slightly up and to the left of the core, so hopefully I'm missing the worst of that light dome. Certainly where Rho Fuki is at the moment is smack bang in the middle of it, but never mind, it's an accurate reflection of where we are here, and I think with that slightly reduced exposure at 60 seconds we'll still get a great Milky Way shot. I'm probably going to shoot about 20 minutes worth of data. There's no point going super deep when you've got those sorts of domes on the horizon, because they're always going to limit the amount of detail you can get out of it anyway. So hopefully this will make a nice image. Well, despite the light dome over there, the sky is pretty nice here. We're at the time of year where it doesn't get properly dark, just about. But I can still see the Milky Way coming down there from the east down to the southeast and the south. I can see that very clearly with my naked eye, particularly that lovely structure going through Cygnus. It's still a lovely night to be out. I tell you what though, it is getting really cold and very dewy, and because I'm amongst all this tall grass and scrub, my feet and my legs are getting really wet, where the dew's just pouring off them onto me. And even though I've got Arctic boots on here, my feet are getting really cold. So it's June in a couple of weeks, but still this time of year you can get some really cold nights. I remember about 12 months ago when we had the big aurora display on the 10th of May, being out in a t-shirt until about midnight. No such luck tonight though. Well, as the last few of those sky shots finish off, it's time to call that a night. It's got really quite cold, and it's not just dew now. I can see a mist starting to roll in there from the south across the fen as well. So I suspect it won't be that long until I get enveloped over here. And when the mist comes in the fens, it comes in very quickly and often very thickly as well. And if you wear glasses like I do, it can be particularly problematic to see where you're going. But I've had a really enjoyable evening. It's been super relaxing, super casual. It's been great to come and see these foregrounds. Yes, they weren't quite as magnificent as I had in my mind's eye or remembered from when I came down and scouted this location, but it's been quite fun, and I've got to see the Milky Way again. The clouds cleared, that's been great. So definitely still worthwhile, and all at a slightly more civilized hour as well. No silly early morning nonsense. So it's getting to that time of year now where we don't really get proper darkness for a couple of months at these latitudes in the UK. Now, I proved last year that you can still get some decent images of the Milky Way even if it's not fully dark, so I might still get a few trips out. But really what the next couple of months are about are noctilucent clouds, those beautiful shimmering twilight clouds that you get at this time of year. Really stunning things. I really enjoyed my trip out to the Highlands last year capturing those, and hopefully over the next couple of months I'll get some good images of those when they start to kick off as well. If you got this far, thank you very much indeed for watching. I always enjoy it when you come along and join me on these adventures, and I look forward to seeing you on another adventure very soon.